It's Friday, September 8th, 2023. Okay, shill segment up front. Patreon. You know what's really weird? Hold
Yeah.
on a minute.
Me, you, the
No, no.
world.
You know what? Your audio does something weird on my end, but it's not the recording, so I don't care. I just noticed it gets really loud when you're not talking now. It's almost like it's trying to boost your background.
It wants
room
my
tone.
creepy
It's
breathing.
strange. Yeah, but it's not on the recording, so it doesn't matter. It's just weird because I hear it. Yeah.
I don't know what
Anyway.
you pick up sometimes. Like I don't know if you pick up my breathing. I know that you get annoyed sometimes because you pick up
No.
the weird drops and clicks around. I was gonna get
that's okay.
one of those mic stands that is like a
Actually, I'll be honest.
comes from above?
That doesn't seem to come through that badly. Even the
good.
bumps don't seem that bad.
yeah.
And I think as long as I'm talking, it's probably covered mostly.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem that bad. So, in any event,
Patreon.
patreon.com/Ozone Nightmare is one place to support the show. You can also go to our homepage and click on the PayPal link and use that platform if you prefer that for your supporting avenue. In that same list of blocks, or I should say that same array of blocks, you will see what looks like a book with a bookmark. Clicking on that will take you to Lando's Amazon author page. You will see a little skull that will take you to my link tree, which will have links to all kinds of different stuff. That does go to Linktree. Yes, it does. Okay, it even says Linktree, so I did update the label. I wanted to make sure because, I want it to kind of be obvious what it is. And then at the bottom is the YouTube channel where I have a ambitious intent as far as the YouTube channel. I'm going to try something. Now, this is a bit of a preface for something that's coming, but I know it's happening. So unlike a lot of things where I'm like, make sure. I know this is going to happen. Timing-wise, not sure because it's probably going to be very long. But we being me and Doug Bielmeyer, Dr. Doug, I must give credit for anybody who gets a doctorate. You have a doctorate or not? Do you have a doctorate?
No. Do you think if I had a doctorate, I would not milk that shit?
Okay, I thought so, but I couldn't. I thought
Yeah.
at one point you
Come
were in a
on.
PhD program of some kind. But I couldn't.
No, I was going to go into a PhD
That's what it is.
program, and then I moved.
Got it. That's why I always conflated. I figured you would probably.
Yeah, I just have too many master's degrees.
Sure, I got you. So Dr. Doug and I will be doing a 6-film retrospective analysis discussion of John Carpenter films, probably paired in. Well, we are going to pair them into 2 movie bundles or whatever.
Are you doing this as a video?
Well, no. Well, no, we're not doing it as a video. But
Okay.
what I think I'm going to do is because I have a notepad, a paper notepad with a pen that I am making notes because we're going to be talking about the budgets, how much they made. Like he's going to probably do a lot of the music.
Oh wow,
angle,
he wants to do like a hard breakdown.
He wants to. I shall read you. God, this is what's great, man. Is he jumped on board with this and was like, yeah, all right, let's do this. In a big way. So his email, here it is. He said, where is it? Oh no, this is on a different one. Where's the?
It's okay. You can paraphrase.
No, because I think it's important. Here we go. He said, Damn it, that's just too many. You know what I don't like about Gmail, as a complete aside?
That it's run by an evil corporation?
Well, there's that, yes. But I don't like how it breaks emails. There's probably a way to solve this where it breaks emails.
Oh, you mean
every
like
separate one?
Like a response, like it puts you.
Yeah.
It gives you like a stream, and then you can't find shit.
Yeah, isn't that strange how it does
Yeah,
that?
I know. My wife bitches about that all the time.
Yeah, here it is. He said, suggest we read off the wiki IMDb and understand who did the soundtrack, cinematography, reception, budget could make for some really great talking points, and I totally agree. So, I'm actually making...
He's like so much more organized already than...
He caught a problem because I sent him, he actually carved a promo for the late night that just came out. And made it to put it on Instagram and social. Like he made, because I mean he's like Snedeker. He's an audio engineer and composer.
Dude, yeah. I think we just found your new co-host.
Oh no, he doesn't have time. He's a teacher. He's a professor and he's a performer. He doesn't have time for that. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm sure he would.
The only reason I have time to do this is because we do it at night and I don't sleep.
Yeah, we do it in your night. Yeah. So he found that I had made a mistake. So yes, he's far more organized. Like he has a whole promotional plan for it, like the whole thing. He's got it all angled. It's great because I don't know how to do any of that. So
no, it's fantastic. Like I said, you know what? It sounds like Doug's an actual adult.
Doug is an adult who has found his calling, is doing it, and I really do genuinely, outside of the fact that, I wouldn't want to review somebody I know stuff negatively anyway, but I really do enjoy his podcast. It's short. It's interesting. I like it. So his podcast is called The Process with Dr. Doug Bielmeyer. So go listen to that if you're into weird experimental stuff. It's great. Anyway, so what I'm going to do is normally, unlike the Libsyn link to Twitter, which has broken because Elon Musk is a fuckhead, so now it doesn't work, and I'm not even bothering. Like they came back and they said, put in a support. I'm like, you know what? I don't care. Because I noticed it wasn't posting on there. And honestly, I don't care anymore. I'm pretty much tuned off of that thing. So I'm just on Blue Sky now, so whatever. So the show does post to YouTube. And what it does is it just uses the show art. So actually on YouTube now, all the episodes are there for people because people do just listen to things even if there's nothing in the video. They just listen to it in the background. That's fine. But for that one, I think I'm going to try to pull clips because I already in my notes, I have like a system of pull audio of this because I want to play the sound clips of the stuff.
Man, I can't even imagine what a video version of this show would look like.
Well, you're going to find out because it won't be us, but I'm going to get like essentially a cardboard cutout of me and Doug. And then as we're talking, we'll pop up, and then the video clips will play. I mean, it's probably going to be a lot of work.
Oh,
but
it
I'm
is,
actually
honestly. You're doing. You know what you should do? That would be really funny. You should do hand puppets.
Oh, that would be it. Well, I could. Because
then you could just sit there with the camera pointed at hand puppets and just have one move.
Oh man, do you know what's funny? I actually could do it because I have a blue screen that's easily big enough that I could do that.
Jeez, that'd be funny. Yeah, I mean the problem then would be making really good hand puppets. It's funny you say that too
because I've been watching Syphil and Ollie lately, and I fucking love that show. I love that show.
There you go.
I love it.
I mean, you could do. Listen, you could do hand puppets. You could get like Muppets. Like you could do. Well,
what I need to do is I got to get a small hat and a small set of glasses for him, and then I'll have to make some kind of ponytail for me, and a goatee. Like I'd have to draw. You know what? It's
an art project.
It's an interesting idea. Or I could buy a couple of hand puppets. Like
that's what I mean.
Types.
Like see if you can find. Yeah, just find something that's close.
Let's see. Hold on. Amazon.
Yeah. Honestly, you should find if they've made a doll of the what do you call it? Of the comic book guy from The Simpsons.
Yeah.
And then hold on, and then gut it, and put your hand in it and move it around.
Find out.
Yeah.
Let's see. PREN. Probably not. Well, maybe. Let's see. Hand puppet on Amazon. This is so stupid. Animals. They have a ton of. Let's see.
Oh, you could each pick animals.
They have a chef. Like looks like an Italian chef. I could just make that as me. That would almost be funnier. Oh yeah, look at this.
Man.
They do sort of have them. Look at this. They have somewhat generic ones for family hand puppets for like teaching your kids stuff.
Oh, I wonder if Etsy you can find somebody who will make you.
I don't think they thought out some of the names though, because the shorthand for these is Big F Boy, F-boy, Big F Girl. Guys, you might want to rename those. Might want to rename him. I'm just saying. Big F Boy is going to go in a really bad direction. Yeah, they
So-
have a
so
ton
is
of puppets.
It's the big fuck boy. Is it supposed to be fuck boy?
No, it's for kids. It's for talking to
Oh,
kids about
okay.
stuff.
Yeah,
it's
that
probably
doesn't
for
work,
young
yeah.
kids and explaining, 9/11 is when the puppet, and then you just throw it down the side of the building or something
Is
like
when
that.
Big F boy died. Yes.
Yeah, Big F Boy dove off the roof because he was going to burn to death otherwise. So if that comes up in class, now you know what happened. Let's see. They have one.
No,
for
I wonder.
glasses.
I wonder if there is an Etsy service where somebody will make like a basic hand puppet
Oh,
of
I'm
you.
sure. I'm sure there is. But
That'd
I
be-
mean,
that
it
would
might
be
cost an
very
arm and a
funny.
leg. Let's see, custom.
Well,
hand
I
puppet. Let's-
know hand puppets. I mean, come on. I'm not looking for
come on, it's
for,
Etsy.
Sesame Street level shit here.
Give me a break. You know it's Etsy. Oh yeah, here it is. Custom made look-alike Muppets. Yeah, $500.
Well, that's too much. Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. You
Unless
say
listen,
no, but I'm saying yes.
unless you were gonna do like a lot.
Oh
of
no,
them.
I found you, sort of. Okay,
I'm
no,
not
it's-
hard.
All right, it's yeah, well, I don't know what you are. I don't see it when we do these, but here, let's see.
I'm completely naked, covered in oil.
All right, it's not really you, but at first glance, I'm like, okay, yeah. If you wore sunglasses, let's see. Yeah, some
I hate to say it, but
yeah, right.
that's
You
pre-
see it,
that's
right?
pre-
You
that's
see
pretty
it.
close. Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. You kind of
No,
see it.
man. Yeah. I mean, yeah.
It's,
If there
it's
was
more
a
it's more the expression type of thing than the actual, look
yeah,
of it.
if it had round glasses and a hat, yeah.
Yeah. Some of these are more reasonable, but honestly, the ones on Amazon.
Yeah, but I mean
are,
that's okay. That
$20.
is Sesame Street level. That's what I'm saying. I'm
Yeah,
talking about
that's-
like sock puppets. Like
well,
someone,
that's the ones that are on Amazon, and the problem there is you get very generic. But but they're $20. So what do I care? I would literally just give them away to somebody's kids after that. But yeah, if you go to Etsy, you're spending
Jeez,
some
man,
money.
that's a hell of a puppet. Now I'm curious.
Yeah,
Now I want to be a puppet.
I told you. I told you.
Oh, that's very funny. Yeah.
Okay, now here's personalized Muppets for $60. So, but these look like their torso. Okay, these are. I'm not even gonna.
Yeah,
name
you know
these.
what?
These
I
are
think
horrible.
I would much rather watch a podcast where it's Muppets.
Oh sure, well sure.
I mean,
get that.
there's something far more sort of tactile about that. In
They have a
fact,
Buddhist
you know
monk
what?
hand puppet?
I would totally do a recorded show of the two of us, where I just moved the hand puppet whenever I talked.
Well,
Because
you know
honestly,
what?
it's amusing. You would almost start to get facial hand gestures
Oh yeah, no, of course.
when
Listen,
like one of us
of
said something
course.
really dumb and the other one just starts slamming their puppet against the
Well,
keyboard. Like,
I mean, I'm game to do it. If you ever want to do a movie review like Mystery Science Theater, but where the puppets are facing the camera, I'll do it. I'm not gonna not do it.
oh man! All right, I'm not going to close this link. I'll leave this open. I'm going to think about this later. We have a show. We have a show to do. We have to focus.
Well, I was at the end. So, and then the only other thing is the code Ozone for a month free of Libsyn, as far as I know, still works. So, yeah, that's the opening bit. So actually, I will link to these puppets in case anybody cares.
I'm no longer worried about if a bus or truck should hit me, because I know now that you actually have so many people to record with at this point that the ozone would go on.
The problem is I don't know how many of these people could really do it regularly. That's not even being exaggerative.
Why is that
that's not
hard?
exaggeration. Because people look. It's not really that it's hard. It's just that, for example, Rojan, who's probably the person who would step in to do it.
Yeah.
His job, he is always on the road. He's constantly moving. You see what I'm saying? It's not so simple as that. Like you say that, like, oh, you have people. Well, yeah, but it's
all about finding like a whole army of people,
Well, we're in a unique situation where we have a really good schedule that works most of the time, and we're very flexible in it. And it's just not everybody has that ability.
Well, I'll try not to get hit by a truck.
Yeah.
That said,
I do have an opener. I forgot to tell you this. I have a small
by all
opener,
means,
which I
go.
think is hysterical.
Open away.
Well, almost predictably,
Yes.
you know how there's been this Barbenheimer thing that's been going on where people,
Yes. Well, yeah. Go see Oppenheimer and then go see Barbie. Yeah.
Right. Well,
Yeah.
it was only a matter of time. Now, honestly, I thought it was going to be Troma that would jump on making an actual movie. But no, it's Full Moon. The Puppet Master people are making a Barbenheimer film. I will give you the description. Deep within Dollsville, a group of fed-up female dolls, led by the brilliant Dr. Barbenheimer, build an atomic bomb.
Oh, wait, are they going to be like... is it going to be like angry dolls? Like, is it going to be actual dolls, or is it people?
Yes. No, I believe it's actual dolls.
So it's
because don't forget, they made the evil toys. They've done all this.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
To bring down the patriarchy once and for all. But as the battle of the sexes swells, will Barbenheimer and her bevy of beauties end up blowing up more than they bargained for? And the tagline is, D-Cup A-Bomb. Which I think is great.
That's awful.
It is. That's fantastic. But I like that it's coming from Full Moon.
Go watch. What is it? Small Soldiers, where they turn the Barbie dolls into like scary attack drones. That's pretty funny.
Yeah. So, like I said, I am happy it's coming from Full Moon because they do puppets. So I from what I can see here, they've been doing stop motion stuff even recently. So yeah, and apparently they're in kind of a they're kind of in an upswing. Some of their stuff has been making some money, so I think they can actually do a good job of it. Yeah.
Well,
but it indicates it's going to be dolls.
We'll see what happens.
Like I said, I'm Trauma is very hit or miss for me. Some of their stuff is really good, and some of it is so terrible I never want to see it again.
Is this meant to be a horror movie?
It's meant to be a horror comedy.
Oh, a horror comedy. Okay.
Yeah.
Honestly, that's the best kind.
That is the best way to do it, I think.
Yeah.
And I'm very happy it's Full Moon because I generally love Full Moons. Even their lesser stuff is still like the Puppet Master movie where the puppet came out, drilled through the pregnant woman and her baby. It was like, okay, this is awful, but it is kind of funny. So I don't know what this will be, but I'll watch it.
Honestly, from the special effects standpoint, that is kind of awesome.
Yeah.
Like I've been watching a lot of MythBusters with my kids. Man, it's so funny. My wife does not like MythBusters at all. And I made the argument. I was like, yeah, but they're learning things. And I turned to the kids and I was like, hey, kids. I was like, what did we learn from MythBusters the other night? And my son was like, you can cook with C4.
Oh, yeah, I can see why my wife doesn't like it.
But they learned other things, but she doesn't like it because she finds
it's not like
annoying.
The 50s where you could buy radioactive materials and actually build some kind of mini bomb.
She thinks Savage is annoying. And he's like hyperactive and irritating.
Well, he is hyperactive. I mean,
yeah,
I said there was ADHD.
Yeah, probably. But I was like, yeah, but honestly, it's good because it's the kind of chaos that kids like, that kind of pulls them in. So we've been watching a lot of MythBusters, and
I can sort of see it, but the thing I like about him is his enthusiasm. He's
excited.
I like.
Yeah, that's what I mean. He's very excited about his subject matter, that's
practical
explicitly
effects,
what I'm talking about.
I like.
Which is if you come to one of these special effects guys and you come with this like interesting problem, they don't necessarily, like you say, I want to have a puppet drill its way out of a pregnant lady. A special effects guy is not going to look at that on a moral level. They're going to look at that and go, how would we do that?
Yeah.
How would we do that and make it look believable?
Sure.
And it's like, it's interesting problems. I think one of the things in life that we start to run out of is interesting problems, not mundane, not everyday, irritating, but like interesting problems where somebody asks you and you genuinely sit there and go, shit, I don't even know how we do that. How do we do that? And then it starts this round table thing, and you're like, this, that, and the other thing. I mean, that's great.
One of the great things about effects artists like that is when you see some of the weird ways they solve the problem.
That's what I love.
That's the joy of it.
Like, I love watching the way, especially in MythBusters, how there's almost a scientific approach where it's like, okay, well, let's scale, like when they start to scale things up. Mm-hmm. We're like, look, make a little version. Like, there is a scientific method to it, and yet at the same time, there's a certain level of, childish glee. Like, we just watched the episode where they made the that kung fu weapon that saws the neck off. It's like you throw the loop around the neck, and yeah, and it's like, it's like the testing of that is quite scientific, but the actual construction of it is like mad scientist, and it gets into that territory. You know what I mean? So yeah, I enjoy it, and yes, I I have gotten to the point now where I can look at some of these, especially these horror movies, and say, okay, I see what you're trying to do. Like, and especially for the ones that, like Saw. I don't enjoy the Saw movies at all, but I appreciate the creativity that goes
I like
into
the first one when it was
the
a
scenarios.
New thing. That's about it.
Yeah, I know. This is now then it's just like beating a dead horse.
Well, I mean, it was when you realize the body on the floor is him the whole time. I mean, the first time, that's clever.
Yeah.
And that's it. You know?
Yeah.
but after that, I've never watched it again because I know it. I already know what it is. I know the gimmick.
Yeah, then you watch it a second time just to see what does the body do?
No, I never did. I knew.
Oh, really?
That there was. I knew there was never a point. I watched that and I went, "That is a perfect one-time gimmick." You know, because, and the other thing is, inevitably, I knew that exactly what has happened would happen. I'm like, they're going to take this interesting idea. If that movie had never had a sequel, I think it would.
It would have been a classic.
It would have been seen in the same type of vein as something like The Exorcist, because, I mean, I'm not going to say they would have said it's the same quality as The Exorcist, but it would have been seen as a great single horror film because it did it did three things effectively, but one of them was already being done. One is, they did the gross out horror stuff, but that was already being done. That was kind of the torture porn thing was already happening.
The budget was amazing on that as well, I'm pretty sure.
Well, the two things are that the little dummy is great visually. The little, do you want to play a game? Like, that's a neat, that thing is memorable. Like, if you know nothing else about, people who've never seen the Saw movie know the doll and know the saying. Kind of like if you don't ever go to Disneyland, you still know who Mickey Mouse is. You never read a comic book, you still don't know who Superman is. And then the thing with the body on the floor, because that's just laying there. And then at the end, when he gets up, it's great. If that had been one and done, that movie would be seen.
I know. And then there was a sequel and another sequel and a prequel and a prequel.
And then, of course, it just burned the whole concept to the ground, which, of course, it did. It has to. They always have to. But as a single movie removed from it, that was...
we can't handle the potential energy anymore. We have to kill it.
Well, it's kind of like Blair Witch, which sort of avoided that problem because the sequel was so awful.
Well, the sequel was not at all like the original.
Yeah,
wasn't
they didn't redo the found footage thing. Yeah. Then they went back to it, I think, later. But
stand Blair Witch.
I don't
hate
like
found
it
footage
either.
Movies.
But I remember seeing it in the theater, and I remember the theater was people were screaming. So, whatever I think of the movie myself, it was effective.
Yeah,
it was.
I suppose, yeah.
So it had an impact. And it was made for nothing. I mean, it was made for nothing.
And it's the creativity of process that really fascinates me.
Yes.
No, it's the whole, you guys did this with next to no money, and it was a really clever idea. It worked.
The other thing is, for a while, people thought it was supposed to be a real thing because they had the website. They were presenting it as if it was real.
Yeah.
And it worked I'll tell you what the mistake was with that.
There's probably people out there that still think it's real.
Well, I mean, there's always those people. But they did it too early. They did it too far in advance. What they should have done was kept it low-key until a month before it came out, or even 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And then put out the real website with the real stuff. And then people wouldn't have had enough time to figure out whether it was real or not, and that would have made it better. They did it too far ahead. But still, again, that movie, because the sequel was completely different and awful, that movie still has a place. Again, I don't like found footage at all either. I've watched maybe 5 of those type of movies in my entire life because I hate the concept so much because it never really works. But that one, probably of the 5 I've watched, worked the best. In terms of, if I didn't know anything about it, I could see it being something where it was real footage, and then at the end, you see the real people, and they're like, yeah, we spooked ourselves. It was actually just a gag, or like a punked type of thing, and one of us was in on it. I would have believed that from the way it was done. If at the end, one of those 3 people had been in on it with an effects team.
Oh, I saw a meme.
mean?
I saw a meme for an idea for a show.
Sure.
Or like a reality movie, and I actually was like, oh, man, you know what? I would totally watch that. Basically, give a bunch of flat earthers money and tell them to travel to the end of the earth.
Sure. Go ahead.
And I was like, I would totally watch that because I'm totally curious if their own self-deception would keep.
Oh, I'd watch it too.
Or would there be a moment, at least for some of them?
Well, some would, yeah.
Where they went far enough that their brains went, wait a minute,
Oh,
you mean?
well, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
For some of them, not all of them.
Some of them, yeah. I believe some of them would truly would truly say, well, I don't really believe it, but I've seen enough videos that have enough to make me wonder, and so I'll do it. Right?
Yeah.
And then I would say those people would probably be the ones who went around the world and said, yeah, it's a circle. But I wanted to see it myself. The only eyes I trust are my own. I saw it, and I can tell you that it's bullshit. I do believe there would be some segment of those people that would do that. And then there would be others who would say,
it's a scam. They tricked me.
Yeah, they'll say, well, the ship's instruments were being tampered with, so I was actually going in a circle before I could get to the edge. Or some dumb thing like that. There's always going to be those
some people will never, you can never change their minds.
Never. So, yeah forget it.
Yep.
Yeah. But I watch it, sure.
I finished watching some shows. I wanted to touch briefly, somewhat briefly on them because I don't want to get too heavy in them because you haven't watched Good Omens.
Yeah, probably never will.
Why? Oh, why?
I don't care enough.
All right, you know what? I'll revisit that in a minute because I finished Picard, right? And I just want to mention it briefly.
Sure.
Because I really enjoyed that show. I actually really enjoyed it. I don't want any more Picard.
No, I don't think anybody really
because
does.
I don't think you can make any more Picard after that without it being trite.
Oh, well, okay. There's
trite.
The qualifier.
Without it being
you could make whatever
trite.
the hell you want.
But I wanted to say that I really enjoyed it. I love the weird shit they did. I love that they tied it back to the fact that it's all Picard's fault that he never really got away from the Borg. It's shit like that makes you want to go back and watch Next Gen. And like, just keep it in the back of your mind while we're watching Next Gen. Be like, dude, you're infecting everybody right now. You're infecting everybody. But I actually really enjoyed the idea for a new show. When 7 and 9 becomes captain of the Enterprise, I was like, Jesus, I would watch this.
Yes, of course.
Like, I actually really enjoyed that idea. My biggest issue, I realized with Picard, I have one massive issue. Is why is the ship so fucking dark? When they get on Enterprise is D, right? Enterprise D, yeah, D.
Yes, the Enterprise D, correct.
Yeah. Yep. And it's like all pale and well lit, and I'm like, see, I was like, I was worried that they were going to try and like dim the old Enterprise, but they couldn't have gotten away with that. So it's all bright and you can see everything, and I'm like, Jesus, I was like, this is what it should look like. I was like, I don't need all this dark ship shit. I said that my wife was like, it is not good when the Millennium Falcon is better lit than your starship.
Right.
Like, Star Trek was always well lit. You could see everything. It was clean. Whereas, like, those ships are so dark. Like, they're like goth starships. So I don't like that trend, especially after watching the Calvinverse Star Trek movies, where those ships are like almost translucent. They're so fucking bright. And maybe they were just trying to I don't know, draw a difference between themselves and the movies. But otherwise, yeah, I really enjoyed it. But it was interesting how a Trek lover and a non-Trek lover reacted to the end of that show. My wife thought that the last episode was about a half hour too long. Whereas I was like, no, it's like they're tying up the series. Like, they got to tie up, they're essentially tying up like all these loose ends from this series and Next Gen. And like, they're trying to like, they're just trying to like blow out as much fan service as they can.
Yeah, I mean, she's not wrong. She's actually not wrong, because I don't know, about half an hour. But I remember when I watched it, I thought, okay, there's probably 15 minutes or so of this that we really don't need.
Honestly, I didn't need any of this stuff with Q.
Oh, the Q stuff, I don't, that's 2 minutes. I don't care about that.
Yeah, I don't mind the Q stuff, but I didn't think it was necessary. That was just them desperately trying to get people to be interested. Whereas I'm like, you know what? I'm interested. I was like, if you put out, I mean, they have to know at this point. No, I just mean
I didn't need as much of the ship flying inside the boat. Like, I don't need that. That doesn't have to keep going on. Like, we get it. I don't care about watching all the dipping and swirling around where the ship is. Okay, they go into the cube. We can cut to something else and come back, and they've made it inside. We're done. I don't.
No,
need to
you didn't want the
CG.
you didn't want the Death Star Millennium Falcon flight through the
that's what I
Borg
mean.
cube.
It just emphasizes the fact that it's not physical.
At least they didn't. At least they didn't try to give him a hallway sequence.
You know what? Probably because they realized that there was no way to do it.
But
I
hands
was
down,
surprised Worf didn't get one, but that's okay.
The best part of that show, for me, is Riker and Worf.
Oh,
those two together.
Oh yeah.
I would watch a mini series of those two forced to be stuck together, just doing something.
No, they're great.
And Worf does get like the best lines through the whole thing.
Oh,
absolutely,
no doubt about it.
And honestly, at the end when he falls asleep in the flight chair, in Deanna's seat, I was like, that's perfect. That's perfect for Worf right at the end to just be like,
yeah.
So, so I really enjoyed it. That's all the review I'm doing because we've talked about Picard before, and now Good Omens. So, I actually really liked Good Omens. I really enjoyed it. I was really worried that Guymon was gonna fumble it because he's not Terry Pratchett, right?
Sure.
And in the beginning, it felt a little weak, but as things went on, I don't know if he had got his he got his roll on or whatever, but it started to feel more clever, more Pratchett-y, and there was a lot of little things he did that were fun and interesting. And then the ending threw me for a loop, and I didn't like it, and I had to stop and think about it, and then I realized it made a lot of sense. So the problem with this show, to some degree, is in the first season of Good Omens, everyone looked at Crowley and Aziraphale and basically said, "Oh, those two are like a gay couple, right?" And they're not even a gay couple. They're like a couple. They're fucking angels. They don't really have sex parts, right? You'd have to have sex parts to be considered homosexual. Am I not right about that? Like you have to have, for something to be considered gay, like there'd have to be
hold on. Well,
like alternate genders. Whereas aren't angels just all angels? Like, isn't their form somewhat?
Well, yes, I think you're correct because it is defined. Homosexuality is defined as a romantic attraction, sexual attraction, or sexual behavior. Well, I would assume attraction would have. Well, I guess not. Whatever. Between members of the same sex or gender, neither which I would think applies to angels.
Yeah. Anyway, so that's a nitpick, right? They're angels. They're
what?
What?
No, that can't be right. What?
Oh, please.
It, quote, also refers to a person's sense of identity based on those attractions, related behaviors, and membership in a community of others who share those attractions. That doesn't seem right. That would just, what? No.
Just leave it there.
No, I think the first definition is what is classically understood to be homosexual.
Yeah, all I'm saying is that.
However,
a lot of
if
people
anybody
were
knows
like,
otherwise, neither of us are. Therefore, if you know otherwise, feel free. I just don't know why you could just. I don't know how you can boil it down to community. That would mean anything.
Yeah, a lot of people were caught up with Crowley and Aziraphale being a gay couple, and the thing in my mind is you're getting tied up with the actors. They're angels. They don't have sex parts.
Right.
They're not. There's not a.
No, that's people mapping the genders onto them, and because
this is the whole Doctor Who thing. People are like, why can't the Doctor just bang Rose Tyler? And you're like, well, because he's an alien, and honestly, I think he finds it he finds the idea sickening.
It would be great if his genitals looked like the TARDIS, and he's like, well, yeah, why do you think I made it look like that?
You know what? I hope he has I hope he has a Cthulhu crotch, where it's like a bunch of dangly fucking things. Yeah, because you don't know, right? All Time Lords could have that. Time Lord females could have like 6 little vaginas, like suction cup holes, and Time Lords could have like 6 dangly Cthulhu penis thing going on there. They could be blue. They get erect and then they are automatically search for the suction holes so they can mate. You don't know. They're fucking aliens. So anyway,
I agree. I don't know.
So, but yes, Now, to be clear, I like the Azazel Cthulhu. Jesus Christ, Aziraphale. What is it? Sorry, I got my angels and my fucking evil deities all screwed up here for a moment. Crowley and Aziraphale. Jesus. Ah, man. I don't know why my brain was like Azazel and Cthulhu. It's just weird mythological dating now. So I like the whole Crowley and Aziraphale matchup. I think it's really lovely the way they did it through the years. But the thing was, the relationship between them, though important to the story, was not the entirety of the story, right? They were trying to divert the end of the world, and there were other people involved. Now, they were the best part of that show, right? But there were other parts of that show, right? Good Omens Season 2 is pretty much exclusively about the relationship. I say the relationship because it's about multiple relationships. At the front of it is the fact that Crowley, I had to make sure I said the right names. Crowley and Aziraphale are clearly together. They don't realize it, but clearly they are some kind of couple. And they're meanwhile trying to get a couple to fall in love to cover for the fact that they did a miracle that, you know, they're trying to hide. So they said that they made a couple fall in love, but now they have to make the couple fall in love. And then the weird surprise ending of it is that, so did you see at all what it's about with Gabriel?
Oh yeah, no, I know what it's about. I've read what
so
the
Gabriel,
whole story is.
Yeah, so Gabriel he loses his memory, he shows up there, and really what it is that Gabriel, who is an asshole, to be very clear, decided that he didn't want to have the end of the world come about. He was kind of sick of it. And him and Beelzebub, essentially both tired to some degree of their positions and of the constant back and forth, agreed off the table that there'd be no more Armageddons, no more shit. They just put it off. And when Gabriel, the other angels, try to essentially fire Gabriel because they want to have another crack at end of the world, Gabriel hides his memory in one of Beelzebub's flies, which he then loses, and shows up as Aziraphale's library, right? And the problem, of course, being that you can't really hide a supreme being of that much power because everybody wants that. Like, hell wants it, the angels want it, everyone's looking for it.
It's basically dogma, except the idea is not to destroy everything, but to save everything.
Yeah, exactly, right. Now, that story is interesting, but most of that you get at the very end. All the shit between Beelzebub and Gabriel, that's filler in the last episode. Right? And they do make the angels come out really, angels and demons, they make them come out really stupid. Like, more stupid than even in the first season. To the point of which that it was almost a little distracting, this idea that they're that dumb. And I guess the idea is like, well, what would they know? They don't mix with humans. So like, it makes sense. But the thing is that the relationship is at the front of it. So yes, there's this Gabriel mystery, but at the end of it all, it's really all about the fact that Crowley and Aziraphale have been together since the beginning, and that Crowley used to be an angel, was part of the group that fell, but Crowley doesn't trust his own people either. Crowley is an independent thinker. And this is one thing I do like about it. Crowley is an independent thinker. He didn't want to be an angel because he disagreed with everything heaven was doing. But he also doesn't agree with everything hell does. So, like, you know, he does a little bit here and there. But at the end of the day, he just wants to pull his own shit. And because of that, he is considered a traitor to hell. But to heaven, he's still a demon. So he's kind of stuck in the middle on Earth, which he's fine with. But I guess because he got fired from being the representative on Earth, he lost his apartment and he's living out of his car, which doesn't make sense because I get the feeling that Crowley is the type who probably could get his own apartment if he really wanted to. Do you know what I mean? That seems a bit poor storytelling.
Yeah,
but anyway,
it's suspending quite a bit of disbelief.
Yeah, the Crowley couldn't just get in a.
I mean,
anyway.
a being like that would find a way to find money to find an apartment or something. Sure.
Yeah, and all the all the sections of the show that go back in time and show Crowley and Aziraphale basically doing random shit throughout history is fantastic. It's like Highlander. Whenever they go back in time in the Highlander show, it's almost better than the show, like the present day stuff. Assassin's Creed's like that too, where you're like, no, just leave me in the past, which is eventually what they did, where they're like, the future stuff's not that important anymore. The past stuff is great. The way that they lambast, the story of Job is stunning and excellent. I love it.
Do you mean lampoon?
Lampoon. There you go. Is that lambast?
Lambast is when you, it's a way of berating someone, I believe. Lambasting. He was lambasted.
Okay. So they lampoon the story of Job, but they're lampooning kind of
to give a thrashing to. Wow, what a great phrase. Yes. To give a thrashing to.
So they lambast the church by lampooning Job. There you go. There's a phrase for you. All right. So I really enjoy all those parts. But at the center of this show always is the relationship between Crowley and Aziraphale. Now, I enjoy that. I wish there was more to the show, though. And maybe that's just it's a really good show. It's a fun world. I wish there was more going on. You know what I mean? But I think that after the first season, I think Gaimon probably just sat there and said, you know what, I'm going to give people what they want. And what most people wanted from the first season was more Crowley and Aziraphale, right? And they are excellent. Let's be very clear. But the past sequences are far better. Like when Aziraphale decides that he's going to put on a magic show to help out Crowley, and then he's going to do the magic trick where you shoot a bullet and you basically catch the bullet type of thing, right? Except the demons find out that the two of them are working together and essentially want to bring Crowley down. Like I said, this is in World War II, and they put a mojo on the place that makes it so there's no miracles of any kind, like heaven or hell. So then Aziraphale has to trust Crowley that he can do his part of the trick, because they're actually doing a magic trick. Like, it's not a miracle, it's not magic. Like, they're actually doing a trick. And in the end, they outsmart the demons who have come to fuck over Crowley, because Aziraphale helps them. They pull off the magic trick, and then Aziraphale does the sleight of hand, so they don't keep the proof. Like, it's all these little short stories within the bigger story that are more interesting. But then I got to the finale, and the finale of it all is that Gabriel gets his memory back and realizes that him and Beelzebub are actually really fond of each other, and that they are tired of pulling all this shit. And Crowley's like, why don't you just leave? And they're like, what do you mean? They're like, yeah. He's like, you don't have to stay here on Earth. He's like, there's a whole universe out there. He's like, you don't need to be involved in this shit. He's like, go off to Alpha Centauri. He's like, I hear it's nice this time of year. And they do. They leave. And I love this idea that, these two supreme beings of power basically said, you know what? We're done with this. We've been doing this forever, and we're done. And they just fuck off. And they do. They just fuck off. So now that couple is dealt with, right? And in that respect, it is very Jane Austen, right? Which is one of the things that Aziraphale keeps coming back to. Because the second to last episode, Aziraphale puts a mojo on everybody who enters his library, that they basically act like they're in a Jane Austen novel, right? And that is, for me, one of the single best episodes of Good Omens. Not just season 2, but season 2 or season 1. Because all these shopkeepers who are there for this shopkeepers meeting are trying to talk and trying to, like, be modern day, but they're getting put through this Jane Austen filter. And the brothel owner attempting to explain that she's a brothel owner, but having a Jane Austen filter that keeps making it so she says seamstress, and how they sexualize the act of being a seamstress is very well written. It's very well written, and it's very well acted. It's probably one of the funniest moments in the show. But beyond that, like I said, it always comes back to Aziraphale and Crowley. And what I thought the show was going to end with was essentially the two of them realizing that they were a couple, right? And then it didn't. It ended with Crowley being convinced by humans that he should tell Aziraphale how he feels, because all this time together, they've never just come out and said it, right? And you're like, okay, yeah, they've always been close. They've always helped each other out. They've always bent the rules for each other. And the finale is basically that the Metatron shows up, the voice of God, for those who aren't up on their Christian mythology. The Metatron shows up, and now that Gabriel's gone, there's an opening. So who do you think they want to fill the opening? Metatron takes Aziraphale aside and basically says, hey, I know that we've had our issues with you. He's like, but you are one of the most honest, pure-hearted of the angels. Like, you've always tried to do the right thing for people, and you're very responsible, and obviously smarter than the rest of this bunch. So why don't you come back to heaven and help us carry out our new plan? The new plan, apparently, which is the second coming. So they must have a season 3 already ready to go. And Metatron says to him, he's like, yeah, he's like, you'll be.
I would not assume. I would not make that assumption.
No, okay. So he goes, yeah. So he's like,
man,
yeah, I know. He's like, so basically, as the Metatron
peripheral got killed, and that was,
yeah,
come on.
Oh, did they really kill it?
Yeah, they canceled it. There's no
Oh
peripheral.
shit! I didn't know that. Did they even get through the book?
No. Didn't they only get through the first? Didn't they say it was only the first 2 chapters or something?
No. All right, hold on. Stop.
I never watched the whole thing.
Let me finish.
Yeah, I'll look it up in the background.
Because you're totally going to derail me with that.
No,
anyway,
go.
Yeah. So the Metatron says, Aziraphale, you're an honest angel. You can be the Metatron. You can be take Gabriel's spot and basically be the highest of the angels. You can run things for God, right? And he says to him, if you're in charge, when you're in charge, you can take certain. You have certain kind of ways you can bend the rules. You could always bring Crowley. You could reinstate Crowley as an angel, and he could be your right-hand man. You guys could, do all this stuff in heaven. And Aziraphale is overjoyed. And so he goes back to his bookshop where Crowley's waiting to tell him how he feels. And Aziraphale basically says, hey, I got this offer. And he tells him everything. And Crowley, of course, says, right, and you told him where he could stick it, right? And Aziraphale's like, what are you talking about? He's like, yeah, you told that Metatron to go fuck off because, why would you go work for them? He's like, why would you play by their rules? And Aziraphale keeps saying to him, no, he's like, we would make the rules. He's like, we could make things better from the inside. And it concludes with Aziraphale going to heaven to be the man in charge. And Crowley fucking off and driving off, I guess, into the sunset, whatever. And the ending bothered me at first, right? Because I think it's because I was so ready for the show to just be like, oh, and they do kiss, which makes no sense to me because why would angels give a shit? This is my own science fiction mind kicking in. It's not a gay thing. It's just why would they care? Like they're amorphous.
Well, no,
shape-changing.
But that's an audience indicator.
It's an audience thing. Yeah, it's just an audience thing. So they kiss. And listen, it's very well done. If you're going to be kissed by a man, David Tennant is probably a great one to pick, right? Just then I was thinking to myself, if I had to be kissed by a man in a movie or TV show, who would I want it to be? And I honestly, I just blinked.
Oh, I didn't blank. Mads Mikkelsen. I don't even have to think about that. I don't have to think twice about that. Come on.
Oh, please. Let it be Mads Mikkelsen.
Or Mario Adolf from the Italian crime films, but he's dead. Wait, wait. Maybe he's not. I could be wrong. Maybe he's not dead.
That's funny.
Hold on.
I just blinked. I was trying to think.
No, he's alive. All right, him or Mads Mikkelsen, but he's very old. I would take Mads Mikkelsen first. Mario Adorf, not Adolf. That makes sense like Hitler. Adorf. Sorry, Mario.
Yes, that's not Hitler. I don't want to be kissed by Hitler. No.
No, and he's a German actor, so it's easy to kind of. But no. Adorf. But yeah, he is. Oh Jesus, he's 93. Yeah, that's
a bit much. Yeah, you might kill him. That might be too much for him.
I probably would.
Yeah.
Not because of the sexual intensity, because I'd probably trip on one of his shoes and crush him. But yeah, same difference.
Yeah, which senior actor would you like to kill with your sexual intensity?
Well, if you put it like that, then yes, Mario Adorf.
So, trying to get back to what the hell I was talking about. All right, so Aziraphale goes north, and Crowley stays on Earth. Now, the ending bothered me at first because I thought these two were going to be together. And then I had to think about it. And I like that. I like that the show ended in a way where I was like, what? And then I sat there and I had to think about it. And when I thought about it, it actually made a lot of sense, which is that the whole show is about Aziraphale thinking that heaven is still the good guys and wanting to do good. And even when heaven does fucked up shit, he's always like, no. He's like, but we're good. It can be good. And he doesn't realize that good happens because him and Crowley break the rules. Right? So it makes total sense that Crowley, that Aziraphale wouldn't understand the fact that Crowley sees it as a bad idea. But Crowley is also the type that doesn't want anyone to tell him what to do. So there's no way that Crowley would even trust the idea of being in charge. Right? It's got to be a trick, right? How could you possibly do anything? They're just trying to fuck you over. So it actually made complete logical sense why these two could not just be together. Because at the end of the day, there's still a philosophical gap between them. Crowley and Aziraphale, because Crowley still considers himself to be a bad guy, even though he's doing good most of the time. He's an anti-hero. Whereas Aziraphale doesn't understand that the good guys can be the bad guys. And even though he's had to work against them quite a bit to make good things happen, he will not accept the fact that they can be, it's better for him to be on his own side, to be on their side, to do good things. So the ending actually makes a lot of sense to me, and I actually respect them more because in my mind it says, well, now we can have a third season where the two of them try to philosophically find a center point, because neither of them's happy about it. I mean, Crowley is very upset that Aziraphale has chosen heaven over him, and Aziraphale is very upset too. I mean, he doesn't just get angry or upset. He is genuinely hurt. He doesn't understand why Crowley cannot see that this is a good thing. And he doesn't, and it's not like he just tra-la-la's away up to heaven. You can see, and they do this thing in the credits where they show you their faces. So the show ends, but then they still show footage of Crowley angrily driving his car and Aziraphale on the elevator up to heaven, and the expressions that they've got. And Crowley is just very angry and hurt. And Aziraphale is just very confused and hurt, and you can see that he doesn't know if he's made the right decision. So I was annoyed with the ending at first, but then it made more sense. And I would totally watch a third season. I just hope that there's more going on than just the element of relationships, because the big mystery in this one was, why did Gabriel lose his memory and what was he doing there? And then they answered all of that in the last episode with a montage, and I was like, okay, well, this is you just info dumped right at the end. And it was kind of like, was it really that important? Because the only thing it really did was show Crowley and Aziraphale that they could be together and that they could leave, right? But otherwise, when Gabriel shows up naked, there's no foreshadowing. You don't understand. Beelzebub and Gabriel being together is so out of nowhere. Do you know what I mean? It's not like they dug each other in the first season.
I got you. I know what you mean.
Yeah, so there's little things like that. But at the end of the day, Michael Sheen and David Tennant are phenomenal together. All the scenes of them in the past are hilarious to watch. They need more of them. And they're a joy to have on screen together. I just and the ending makes sense. I just wish there was more going on, and hopefully there is, because if they get a third season, and it has to do with the Second Coming, which that could only be hilarious. Then yeah, I think it'll be really good. Yeah. So I don't know. What are your thoughts on? Because you're saying you don't think you're gonna watch it.
No, I probably won't.
Why?
I don't know. I'm just not interested enough in it. I mean, look. Let's number one. Let's see if there's a third and final season, or if it ends. Let's start with, does it end?
Yeah.
Because my wariness around series, I have to really be compelled to watch.
Out of curiosity, though, what is an ending anymore for you?
Well, okay. A show doesn't have to have an ending, but I have to feel like it doesn't end unconcluded. There is a difference between an ambiguous ending, like
so
the Polish movies I reviewed.
Yeah. Is it a conclusion?
Well, all right. It is, and you know this. There's a very obvious difference between shows like Hannibal. Hannibal ends, and you don't know whether, spoiler alert, I'm sorry if you haven't seen the end of Hannibal, you don't know whether they're alive or not. So some people would say, well, it doesn't have an ending. Well, yes, it does, because that's not the point.
How did Hannibal end?
They basically, get together.
Did they? Oh, so it caught up with all the movies and went past them.
Oh yeah.
I never watched Hannibal.
No, the third season they have the Red Dragon. It's Dollar Hyde, whatever his name. Yeah, him. And after they catch him, they realize they're obsessed with each other. But it's never explicitly clear, at least in my read. I do have to rewatch the series, because I actually was thinking about this the other day. I'm like, I haven't watched this series in too long, because it's such a specimen of something that you're like, how could this ever have been on NBC? But because it was so fucking graphic and homoerotic.
Yeah. I know something that always confused me is, how could you do a show like that on NBC?
I don't know, and it's so beautiful. I mean, it's clearly
and they did it so well.
It's something that will never happen again. That type of thing, or at least I don't believe would ever happen again, unless somehow this comes back around where streaming goes back to television, because basically you're paying more for streaming now than television, maybe. But in any event, it ends up where almost Moriarty. Remember in was it League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, where they went off the waterfall together and everybody?
Yes.
And Moriarty? Yes. Okay, it's like that. They end up at a waterfall, and basically Hannibal's like, this is
Hannibal,
what I wanted.
Hannibal and
Will Graham.
Okay. So it's not Starling. It's Graham. Okay.
No, it's Graham. Will Graham. No, it's because Starling isn't in the show. In the show, it's Will Graham. They took the Manhunter model and ran with it. So in this, there is So no. Oh yeah, you never watched the show. God,
no, that's what I'm saying. I don't know.
You should fucking watch this. This is such a show for you. It's so unbelievable how good, because it's so well made. I mean, just top to bottom.
I've seen clips and I wanted to. I just
it's
never got.
So good. Anyway,
okay.
In any event, they end up there, and and from Hannibal's perspective, it seems very clear that he's in love with Will Graham, because Will Graham's the only person who can really figure him out. And Will Graham is clearly professionally obsessed, but I also think he's clearly also in love with Hannibal. And so basically Hannibal's like, this is exactly what I wanted, the two of us together. And Will Graham, I don't remember what line, but he basically says, me too. And then he pulls the two of them off the cliff into the waterfall.
Yes.
And you don't know what happens.
So Will Graham can't really handle the idea.
Well, it's unclear, but that's what I mean. So to some people, that show doesn't have an ending because you don't see their bodies. Or they say, well, they must be dead. And to me, I'm like, well, that's not what it's about.
But it is a conclusion.
It is a conclusion. And so that's where, to me, that is a show that has a conclusion. Or, whereas, like Odyssey 5 doesn't have a conclusion.
No.
It ended in the middle of what it was doing.
Yep.
So so that's what I'm saying, is it doesn't have to have an ending, meaning that there's a finality to it.
Yeah, and the thing is, Good Omens 2 clearly is leading towards another show, because you're not going to leave Aziraphale and Crowley not together.
Yeah, right.
Because the whole heart of the show is the fact that two of them working together make things better.
Yeah.
Like, they need to be together.
Yeah.
So, we'll see. I mean, yes, I know that all these studios are clearing house now and all these shows are being canceled. Now, Did you say that they only got through the first 2 chapters of The Peripheral?
You know, I can't find how much it covers, but basically Amazon renewed it and then canceled it. So they basically said, yes, there'll be a season 2, and then they said, no, there won't. So I don't know. I can't find anything that clearly The Peripheral TV.
I'm looking
series,
I'm looking really quick. I'm so curious now.
I couldn't find anything that definitively specified. It says,
okay, so the first season's 8-hour-long episodes covers the entire 2014 novel, so it did cover the first book.
Yeah, even though from what I've read, it diverged so much that people said, "Who cares?"
Yeah, well, there's that too.
There's that. So I don't know that it even matters.
Yeah.
But I don't know how I don't know how season 8 really ended. So
I mean, the first book. Listen, the first book has an ending. I mean, this is Gibson.
I don't know if the show does.
Well, yes, how they decided to.
Yeah, that's because the creators had said they envisioned 3 seasons.
Well, 3 books.
Yeah, and this is the Westworld people. Therefore, Westworld certainly doesn't have an ending. You know, so.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're because there's a really great thing. I know that everybody gives the Capaldi run of Doctor Who shit. But there's a lot of.
I don't think that's
really.
true.
Yeah, it's nowhere near reviewed as well.
I think most people put it in the middle.
Yeah, because like
they find
Tennant, Matt Smith are considered to be like
mid-level.
way up there, and yeah.
But I don't think
it's serviceable. But there's a really great thing in there where they get to the point in River Song's timeline where she's going to go to the library. And the doctor knows she goes there to die, right? And she's heard rumors about herself, about what happens to her, right? And he picks her up, and they have an adventure, and they go to the Singing Towers. And River Song knows that there's a rumor, a story about River Song and the doctor, and that this may mean that she's going to die. And they have this kind of tense moment where he basically says, spoilers, and the doctor says something to her about like happy endings, about like the happy endings. There are no real happy endings. And River Song says, you know what? No, a happy ending, all it really means is to be happy for a while. Like it's not that the rest of your life was happy. It's just to be happy for a while. At which point the doctor explains to her that a night on Darillion is like 22 years long or something like that. So yeah, she's gonna die, but she'll be there for 20 years. And there's some question as to whether the two of them are together for 20 years. You know what I mean? What does the doctor get up to when he's not doing the show? But I always like that idea that there is no happy endings, but there are happy endings, because the happy ending is. Yeah, they were happy for a while. And I kind of try to look at endings of shows and movies and stuff as, okay, is this an ending that makes sense for a while? Like, so the Hannibal ending, that makes sense. They went over the river. Are they dead or are they alive? I don't know, but it is an ending.
It doesn't matter. Yeah,
it is an ending,
No, that's
the way
why I said that show ends perfectly.
Yeah, whereas like your other show where the guy gets stuck in time, where he gets left in the 80s and the woman comes
right? Archive
now, I don't know,
81 or whatever.
Yeah, I don't know how they handled that, but if the whole idea was that a sacrifice had to be made to save the woman, like if that's the angle of the show, it's not okay. Then yes, that's not an ending, Whereas
they may try to bullshit now that that's what it was. I'm telling you, having watched the show and loved it, it was not.
Joss Whedon ended his shows, ended them. I mean. Buffy destroyed the entire town. The whole town got swallowed up by the earth. And Angel went down an alleyway with the last of his remaining living or undead team members to fight off an army, right? And I know they did further comic books down the road, but the thing is, the show ended. And it's weird? Firefly kind of has an ending, too. Like, I know people don't want to...
Well, Serenity.
Well, I know... But even before Serenity, I always felt like that last episode of Firefly... There was kind of a sense to it, you know what I mean? Like it didn't.
Well, no. I think yes. I don't think they knew they were getting a movie. Therefore, there is
sort
a
of
resolution-esque.
Yeah, it didn't end with a cliffhanger where someone was like, "Boom, you're gonna die," and they're like, "Oh no!" And
No, Twin Peaks season 3 doesn't have an ending, and it's fantastic. I don't care. I mean, it literally is a "what the hell just happened" ending, but it's David Lynch. Therefore, that's the point.
Yeah,
so, no, I don't think it requires. I don't think finality is required for an ending, but a resolution or a conclusion.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing with Good Omens. The first Good Omens has an ending, right? The second Good Omens is really just a break until the next season.
Yeah,
because
and that's the problem.
It's like a lot of shows.
It's like across the Spider-Verse or whatever.
Oh yeah, huge. It's a massive.
And that's why it's like yes, that's going to get a different one. But what happens if Sony Animation, because of the strike, folds? You know what I mean? Now you're just screwed. So I don't. Even, that's why I'm not going to watch it. I'm not going to watch it until the other one comes out. Then I'll watch it. Until that, right. No, I'm not watching it.
That's hey, listen. I understand how you work with this stuff, so it makes sense to me.
Because people are like, "Oh, of course it's going to get made." Fuck you! Of course it's going to get made. You don't
nothing.
Know that.
Nothing. Listen, nothing is for sure anymore.
Right.
Volition
got shut down after 30 years. Who knows?
Oh, who?
The developer of Saints Row.
Oh yeah. Well, we didn't.
30 years
talk about
flushed
show.
on one. Yeah. Well, there's not much to say really. I mean, it's just that. It's not.
Joe
That's another thing. It's not uncommon. It just happens.
Yeah, Joe and I were playing the Saints Row game, and we just found out that the studio was closed down.
Yeah,
and like you said, they've been around for 20 years. And it just and apparently
30 years. That was a 30-year-old studio.
And apparently it was shut down because the company that owns them was supposed to have some multi-million
Saudi Arabian $2 billion or something.
It fell through, and then they just started closing shit down.
And now they're trying to blame it on Saints Row not being a success, which is horseshit because everybody knows that's not what it is. But that's
the thing. They want everything. Story. They want everything to skyrocket now, though. That's the other element of this, where it's like they want every show or game to be like an absolutely towering success. And it's like at times like this, I go back to that Kevin Smith model. Where people are like, why don't you make bigger budget movies? And he's like, because then I have a higher standard that I could be held to. He's like, I'd rather make smaller budget movies, make a little bit of money, and move on to the next one. He's like, rather than bomb some sort of multi-million-dollar movie and never work again.
Yeah.
So yeah. But you and I actually watched the same movie.
We did. Yes.
And we're.
However, I did not pull any sound clips, so this didn't seem like a sound clippy movie to me. So I didn't pull any.
That's funny. No, there's no great. There's no great one-liners. So Joe and I both finally watched because it finally came out to rent and buy.
Yes.
Was it the new
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem? Is the full title.
Yeah. And the thing is, Joe and I both have a long history with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Correct.
I was reading the Eastman and Laird comics before they ever did the show.
Yep.
And how weird is that, by the way, that you were reading those comics, and then all of a sudden there was a cartoon.
Well, okay, not only that, but the comics that were violent, and adult, and black and white, and it came out as a cartoon that was, colorful.
Yeah.
And nobody died, and it was made for kids. Oh yeah, it was radically different.
And it was so much fun either way.
No, that's the miracle of it is they really managed to take that property and do a good. I mean, the cartoon has its quality dips, but they made a fun show out of it.
Yeah, and then I still think the first movie that they made, live action movie, is still very good. I mean,
absolutely.
Like I know they made a ton after that were awful, but that first one is still great. And this new one they've made, is it Paramount and Nickelodeon did this. With Seth Rogen at the helm, essentially.
Yeah, voicing Bebop.
Yeah, I thought you did. I thought you'd enjoy that. When I saw the two of them pop up, I was like, they're not technically the bad guys.
They're not. They're not the bad guys. That's the best part.
But it feels like Seth Rogen really loved the property, and he wanted to find a way to get the humor of the show, but some of the I don't know, it doesn't feel like it's like they took aspects from the comic book and aspects from like the live action movie and aspects from the the 80s and they kind of cranked it all together.
Yep.
Yeah, and then the thing I was reading online was that they wanted to turn it into a younger coming of age movie because the Turtles are only 15 in this, which they've always felt older, right? And then
I always imagined they were 18.
Yeah, 17, 18. Whereas in this one they're 15, and they specifically don't use Shredder as a villain because they were the Seth Rogen and the guy who directed it and the guy who wrote it. Basically, they wanted a villain that the Turtles could somewhat see a middle ground with.
Oh yeah,
so that it was more of a challenge for them.
Well, the best thing about them meeting Superfly is the fact that the immediate thing isn't hostility. It's all right. Let's work together because they don't know what he's going to do at first.
Yeah,
he's immediately like, oh yeah, you're mutants too. Come on, I'm going to create. I mean, he's Magneto. He's just Magneto.
Yes, he is.
Once you know that, it's like okay, yeah, you get it.
So but you've got younger Turtles, and all they really want is to essentially be part of the human world. They've lived under the ground with their dad, played by voiced by Jackie Chan, which is excellent.
It is excellent. It is excellent.
Especially since even the way he fights in the movie is Jackie Chan style.
Oh yeah,
like,
I would imagine they said, "How would you like to do this fight?" and he just drew it out for them. I would have to imagine that's true.
Oh man,
I'll find out when I get the disc of it with the commentary, which I'm sure it will have, and I'll listen to.
And the other interesting thing that they did was that I guess Seth Rogen's approach to doing the dialogue is that he never wanted there to be one actor in the booth, so they always had 4 to 7 people.
Yeah. So they could see each other and bounce off each other. Yeah,
and bounce off each other. So the dialogue is it flows. Like it does not feel like stunted animation dialogue. There is kind of it's very, I don't want to say streamlined, but it feels more human.
It's organic.
Yes, there you go. It's more organic. And then the story itself is quite amusing because in the comics, the Turtles, this is a new approach to say, hey, people know who the Turtles are now, and by the end of the movie, they are accepted. Like they go to high school.
Yeah, the original comics, there was never the acceptance.
Never
did
that.
At all. It was all action.
Not
basically.
only is it a reboot, but it's a reboot that has gone in a different direction, which is always that's always very respectable to me. Of all the Star Wars sequels, the most respectable one is Last Jedi, because though I'm not 100% with his decisions, he did something different.
I'm only 20% with his decisions, but at least he tried to do something different.
Exactly. He did something. You respect it, Yes.
Yes.
And that's the thing. I know this is a movie that if you're a Turtles fan, however old you are, you will enjoy this. If you're a kid, you'll enjoy this. My son just about pissed himself laughing. It's a very funny movie.
I did something highly unusual, which is I called you, which I almost never do.
Oh yeah,
and I said because I called you and I said you're doing your movie night tonight, right? And you said
Are you watching this? Yeah, the only thing I didn't know was when it came out, but this movie's been on my radar.
It's out.
Yeah, this movie's been on my radar for a bit because my son saw a trailer for it at one point when we were looking at videos online, and he was like, "Can we watch that? Can we watch that? Can we watch that right now?" They don't understand how the whole trailer thing works. We get a trailer, and then the movie doesn't come out for a while.
Yeah.
So they'll see a trailer.
I actually had no intention of really watching it because when I saw the trailer, number one, I thought I've seen a couple of attempts at doing new Turtle stuff, and it's never really appealed to me. It's always been named too young, which is fine, but it's just not for me. And then I went, they're ripping off Spider-Verse. They're trying to do Spider-Verse because this animation style looks like it, but it's beautiful. Not at all. But it's also very different. It's basically
very
like colored
rough.
Pencil and highlighters.
Yes.
That's what it's like.
Yeah, it's so rather than with Spider-Verse, you're mixing all the different comic book styles.
Right.
With this, it was almost like they wanted to have a movie that looked like it was roughly hand-drawn.
Yeah, almost like they wanted to take the concepts of the Turtles that Eastman and Laird had done in books and the roughs and just animate it.
Yeah,
That's great.
And I like the way they changed the look of them. They always made them fairly identical except for the different colors.
Oh, they are in the comic. They are identical except their weapons.
Yeah, exactly.
They did not. For anybody who hasn't read the original books, they did not have different colored things. No. They were all wearing the exact same stuff and looked identical except their weapons.
Yeah. Whereas in this, they all physically are different.
Yes.
Raph is really big. Leonardo's kind of the middle. Yeah, he is.
Donatello has glasses.
As is kind of smaller and has glasses. Yep. Michelangelo's
Raphael's kind of beefy.
Yeah, he's very beefy. And then Leonardo's kind of the middle of the road one. He's the most average size. But the action sequences are hilarious and dynamic. The
soundtrack is fantastic.
Yeah, I think I think that movie may have gotten my son into rap.
You know what's funny? This is funny you say that, because I was listening to the Anti-Up song, and my wife comes in and says, "This is unusual for you." I'm like, I like East Coast hip hop. I just don't listen to it very often, but I like the New York stuff. So I'm like, oh yeah, I don't listen to this very often, but I was like, that song is so fucking great.
I grew up with the New York stuff, so
yeah, it's like I've listened to Run DMC forever. I just don't listen to it a lot.
Yeah, I think it made a rap fan out of him, and I like the way they changed. Like the fact that April is the same age as them. She's not like an mid or early 30s accomplished reporter.
Weird. Yeah.
Yeah, like they changed a lot of stuff, but they changed it for the better. You know, I think
they made Baxter Stockman into a good guy. Which, if you read the comics, Baxter Stockman in the original comics was basically a next to rapist who made robotic mouse robots.
The Mousers, yeah.
Well, hey, bloody and violent.
You have they don't show him again. I have a feeling they didn't show him again because they want to make another one. And I think the Mousers are going to show up in the next one, because the last lines in that movie is these guys are going to be harder to get hold of.
Yeah,
that's the company.
And
they call him the Shredder, and the company has Baxter Stockman, who built the Mousers.
Well, so it's TCRI, which is from the comics.
Yeah.
It's the TCRI.
So I think that in the next one, because I hope they make another one.
This movie reviewed through the roof.
Yeah.
So and it did well.
I hope there's Mousers, and I hope there's Shredder, and I hope eventually we go find who are the centaurs? What are the centaurs called?
The Triceratops?
The Triceratops.
Yeah, it's something like that.
Yeah, the Triceratops it was. Not the centaurs, the Triceratops, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's it was a really fun movie. My kids loved it. I loved it. My wife left the room, which is a sign of like a very fun kids movie. I think honestly, when April started puking all over the place, she was like, "Yeah, I'm good." But I loved it.
Triceratops Republic, that is them. Okay.
There you go. Yeah, and they were huge and menacing.
They were.
And then the voice cast is astounding for this. Like Seth Rogen managed to pull a lot of weird people. I mean, fucking what's his name? Is it Paul?
Paul Rudd. Paul Rudd is Mecha Gecko. What is it? Mecha Gecko?
Yeah. Mondo
Gecko. He's great.
Yeah.
Mondo Geckos are right. And what's her face is Wingnut. The female vampire from What We Do in the Shadows is the
she's
fucking
there.
Wingnut.
And then Maya Rudolph is the villain.
That's Krang. You know that's Krang.
Oh, the woman?
Yeah. So her last name is Utam, which is the race of aliens that is a Krang. And her colors are Krang's colors. So what my suspicion is...
Oh, she's
going to become Krang, or she already is Krang.
Krang. She's wearing... It's a bodysuit, yeah.
Yeah, something like that. I have a feeling. Because TCRI stands for Techno Cosmic Research Institute. So I think she's going to be Krang.
Oh, that'd be
eventually.
Funny.
Yeah.
So the voice cast is excellent. They actually got kids to do the voice of the turtles because they are kids.
Which is such a big deal, man. It's so much better.
Well, that's like when we watched when they was it Pioneer put out Akira and they revoiced it.
Yes, and they revoiced it.
And they actually used kids' voices as opposed to like 30-year-olds.
Even though I still can't listen to that version because I grew up with the other one. I grew up with Leonardo as Canada.
I know. There you go. That's the joke. Is they had Leonardo doing the voice of.
No, you're Canada, and you don't sound like
this.
Hey,
man, how you doing? My name's Canada.
I'm Canada.
So yes, the voice cast is excellent. The dialogue is organic. The action is both hilarious and dynamic and fun to watch. And they fight a fucking kaiju at the end. I mean, how great is that?
Yeah.
You know, voiced by was it Ice-T?
Ice Cube.
Ice Cube. There you go. Voiced by Ice Cube. Yes, my kids I had a strange conversation where my kids were like, "Why are there so many like rappers named Ice?" Because there's Ice-T, Ice Cube.
Because they're so cool, baby. That's why.
And I was like, "Well, Ice is cool, so you know it means you're cool." And my daughter,
ladies love Cool James.
My daughter looked at me and she goes, "That's stupid," and walked out of the room. I was like, "Well, you know,
listen, logic doesn't always translate. What can I tell you? It doesn't always work."
But no, it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun for young and old. And like I said, it's been a while since I saw a reboot that was willing to take things in a different direction and worked, like really worked. You know, like, and I like that they're not just fucking experts from the start. Like that first fight sequence they have where it goes hilariously wrong before it goes right, but it goes right in like the most chaotic way possible. You know, like it's it's just I am curious to know.
And they basically pull the Spider-Man 2 thing at the end where the people start helping them.
Yes,
like,
yes,
somebody saw Spider-Man 2. Okay,
yeah,
got it.
They did that. Yeah.
And I believe it's Kevin Eastman is the voice of the guy who first helped Splinter. I'm pretty sure that's him.
Oh, yeah, helps him
he's
up?
one of the people, but I think it's the first one
excellent.
who comes to Splinter and says, "Can I help you?" I think that's Kevin
really
Eastman.
Funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think the movie's just got such an amazing amount of heart. It really makes me wonder, like, who's responsible? Is it Seth Rogen? Like, who is responsible for this being so good?
It probably is a combination of people, but let's see.
Because I mean, he's like the producer, and then he's in it, and yeah.
Development. Okay. Discussed who to bring into the franchise: Seth Rogen and Jeff Rowe. Rogen. Let's see. Here it is. Rogen said the film. Okay, as a lifelong fan of Ninja. Okay, this is what Rogen said. Weirdly, the teenage part of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles was always the part that stuck out to me the most. As someone who loves teenage movies and who's made teenage movies and literally got their start as in this profession by writing a teenage movie, the idea of honing in on that element was exciting. Using that as a jumping off point was something different to do from the film. So apparently it was him.
And then he did a great job. And
he's part of it.
My wife was saying that, like, she came back towards the end, and she was saying what stood out to her was the fact that they get really close to jumping the rating, and yet not. You know, like they can make it. Because here's the thing, like, there's movies that are funny to kids that parents hate, and there's movies that are like okay to watch that are funny for kids.
Yeah,
you know, like Shaggy Dog, the Disney movie Shaggy Dog. Like, that's a PG,
what a stupid
funny
film.
movie, right? Exactly.
I love
but
it.
Then
it's
there's,
a stupid film.
you know, but then there's like 80s comedies that are so, you know,
raunchy.
They're so wrong. And I'm trying to think of one off the top of my head now. My brain keeps going to weird science.
I would. What do you call it? Breakfast Club.
Breakfast Club, yeah, which is like technically like a younger movie. I mean, it's about a bunch of kids stuck in a school. Like a lot of the John Hughes movies. John Hughes.
I mean, Weird Science, if you actually think about what's happening, is fucked up. But if you don't,
it is, you know, younger people might not. Up.
It's like, oh, they were building a fuck toy. All right, got it.
Yeah, it's deeply fucked up.
My first real dog.
But
that movie.
But Weird
today.
Science. But I think Weird Science is already a little older. Like, I'm trying to think of like the.
Well, that's. I mean.
Like there's the whole thing in young fiction, right? Where it's the whole there's people who talk to children like they're children, where they're like, I'm gonna tell you about an evil little wizard and these heroes that fought him, right? It's talking down to your audience because you think they're dumb kids. And there's people who talk soberly and maturely to children, right? And the thing is that kids love that. When I was a kid, I started reading Dragonlance. Dragonlance was written for an older child than me. Let's just put it that way.
Sure.
And because I was being spoken to in this book in a mature way, I loved it. And I read all of them because I wasn't being, at no point did I feel like I was being spoken down to. Right. And those are, I mean, now they look at Dragonlance and they call them young adult books. But my wife read the first one and she's like, one of your main characters is a product of rape. And I'm like, yep, he was. There's an elven character whose name is Tanis half elven. It's right there in the name. He's half elven because his mom was raped by a human. And she's like, when did you read this? And I was like, I started reading those in 6th grade. And she's like, yeah, that's kind of my point. Like, she was like, it's a bit intense. I'm like, it is a bit intense. But that's the thing, is that when you're younger and you get fiction or anything, or even an adult that treats you with a level of like respect, like you're an idiot, you love that. You do. You respond to that as a kid. And this movie does not. Its comedy does not talk down to kids. Like the comedy is actually very astute. I mean, it's ridiculous and it's raunchy. I mean, when Splinter and the weird bug lady start fucking like mouth kissing at the end. where they're like, playing tonsil hockey,
Uh-huh.
and the reaction of the turtles is like, "Oh my god, we have to get out of here!" Like it's so true, so much of that humor, And my wife's like, she's like, Seth Rogen managed to take the X-rated quality out of his humor, but leave all the raunchy human humor there,
Well, as soon as you make them non-humans, it's like, when people get shot and it's green blood instead of blood, and it's like, okay, this isn't R anymore because it's goo. It's that kind of
ooze.
Thing.
No, don't call it ooh. We call it ooze.
Oh, I like that thing too. Where it was like, and it's like, well, ooze sounds better. Ooze. You're like, oh yeah, that does sound better.
Oh yeah, I mean, there's so many excellent moments in this movie. Yeah. So yeah, it's not often that I watch a kids movie and then I sit there and go, I hope they make another one. These are fun. Yeah, I would gladly watch this movie with my kids again. Or even on my own. I mean, like, the thing, it's a really good Turtles movie. It's a different Turtles universe. I'm curious where they go with it, because they didn't bring Shredder into the first movie, but since they changed Splinter's origin to some extent. So I'm kind of like, well, does Splinter tie back to Shredder at all now? Because originally Splinter was owned by essentially the guy that Shredder betrayed. But I wonder if, wasn't that just in the cartoon? I can't remember what the origin was.
Yeah,
in the movie.
I don't.
I'm sorry, in the books.
In the comics, I think he was just the leader of the Foot Clan. I'm trying to look. Yeah, he was originally. Okay. In the comics, and this is what I kind of remember, it is a far more traditional, like, he's the son of a guy who was assassinated by the leader of another clan. And so he went and joined the Foot Clan so that he could, become the best ninja. And, he was trying to track down his brother's killer, blah, 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 blah. But they really had no connection outside of the fact that they were both in New York at the same time. That's it.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see how they decide to tie Shredder into all this.
Yeah.
Yeah, because this is kind of like, Shredder is the Joker. It's the Joker Batman problem, which is that everyone always wants to start with the Joker, right? And what was impressive about, like, Nolan's Batman movies is that he didn't lead with the Joker. He was like, you know what? I'm going to make another Batman movie. And then I'll do Joker, right? And by the time you get to the Joker movie, he's gotten all the origin shit out of the way. So you can just really focus on that movie, right? And it's great. Whereas, like, Keaton, I love Michael Keaton, but they started with the Joker. So you're dealing with all the Batman origin stuff, and then Batman Returns is a fun movie because you've gotten past the origin and you've got all these villains.
The other thing too you have to remember at that time is there was no guarantee of a sequel.
Oh,
so
of course
if you're only going to make one Batman movie, who's the villain going to be?
Lead with Joker.
Right, of course. You have to make it that. So it makes sense. Now, of course, you wouldn't, because you're going to make other ones. So blowing it all, it's kind of the problem they had with the Flash TV show, where they used all the big villains in the first season. And then you had nowhere to go.
And then it was Condiment Man after that, right?
Yeah, it was so bad. It was just such a poor decision to use the Reverse Flash as the first main villain. In any event, yeah. No, but I the only thing I wonder is I wonder if they're going to go with Tokan Razor now, because Bebop and Rocksteady are good guys, essentially. They're certainly not villains. So are you going to turn them evil, or are you going to have Shredder come in and do basically Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, where he creates his own mutants? That's what I wouldn't mind.
Or he brainwashes them.
I hope not. I like them as good guys because I like Bebop and Rocksteady, so I don't want them to be villains.
If you hurt him, I'll hurt you. Yeah, that was a good line.
Yeah, I mean, and they're both, one's driving, was riding a motorcycle, the other's driving a muscle car. Like, I love the two. I could watch a movie of just them.
Yeah, and the design,
so much better,
and the design is really good too.
Yeah, I mean, he's got a boom box when he gets. I mean, that whole thing with their intro is so good. And so I don't know what they're gonna. Or they could. Actually, I say that like Shredder needs anybody. They could just have it be the Hand. I mean, that's what it was in the comic.
Yeah, well, in the comic he had his ninjas.
Yeah. So I don't know where it goes, but.
Or they'll give him the ninja bots eventually. I mean, that's the thing.
Also,
he had ninjas, and he had ninja bots, and he had the Mousers, and yeah.
Here's another thing that I like. If you just don't watch the end credit scene, the movie just ends. It's over. That's it.
Yeah.
Which is good.
Yeah.
So, I loved it. I was delighted with it.
Yeah, it was really excellent. I mean, so I would suggest anybody who likes the Turtles, or you know what, I wouldn't even go beyond that. It was just a good flick.
Yeah,
and there's enough there for adults that you don't necessarily need your kids to watch it, but your kids will probably enjoy it too if you do watch it.
I was kind of paying attention for stuff that I felt was skewing too young, and there were only really 2 instances where I went, okay, this is a little bit aiming straight at really young kids, but the rest of it was fine. It wasn't enough that I cared. It didn't go on too long.
I was just curious what that was.
I don't even remember. One was when they were driving in the van. The dialogue was really, really, really silly. And I mean, silly where it was like, okay, this is aimed at like 10-year-olds, not anybody over that type or less. And there was one other scene that I don't, but neither of them, like I said, they were both short enough I didn't really care. And the rest of it was so good it doesn't matter.
Yeah, my son just about pissed himself watching this.
Oh, yeah. Well, because, 98% of it is exceptional. So who cares about the 2% that's not?
So, yeah, it's rare, isn't it? It's rare for us to get a reboot that works really, really well.
Yeah, very rare.
But yeah, so there you go. Have you got anything else?
No, that was my review was the same as yours, which was for
there you go.
Mutant Mayhem, and that was it. So no,
that's excellent. Yeah, and otherwise, Joe and I have concluded playing Saints Row. Which we concluded though on the highest possible note we could have, which was the insurance fraud quests and the flying football, which is the complete opposite of what we're getting into. We have now entered Baldur's Gate 3. Which is involved.
Yes, we already are going to have to wipe and restart, but luckily we only really were.
But that's my fault. That's totally my fault. I made the mistake of making a really tiny little dwarf as my main character. And when we get into these big battle sequences, I can't find me.
Well, let's be honest. We spent the first hour and 15 of the 2 hours on character creation, so we really didn't do much.
Because there's a lot of weird,
But also, the funny part is I did immediately run into a pretty big bug, which was my sound just cut out on the game.
Yeah,
it just disappeared completely. So actually, I missed a lot of stuff because... there was a decision we already came to where you and I were kind of like going back and forth, and I think some of it's because I was missing some of the dialogue.
Oh, yeah. I think it's because there was whether to fight or kill some people.
Yeah.
And I was like, no, don't kill them. And then you didn't hear it right.
Yeah, I clicked the wrong thing.
And then we killed them.
So, yes, that was...
it's good when you're in a game and you kill somebody that you didn't intend to kill, and the first thought you have is, that's going to come back to bite us.
One of the things I read, which to me is one of the biggest recommendations possible, is that somebody who said that they've been playing for something like 40 hours and they still don't know what the result of some of their earliest decisions is going to be based on how it's going. That they don't know whether this will be a huge mistake that they'll go, five decisions and I'll bomb the whole thing.
With a sense of doom, right? You're like, oh, is that the wrong? And so the thing is, like, I think we're playing this the way we played Wasteland, which is ideally you go in and you make moral decisions. Don't play it like a psychopath. Don't play it like a sociopath.
No.
Play it like, if you were really there, what would you do?
See, and you know what? I made a mistake. Here's another reason I'm glad we're resetting.
Yeah.
I was cracking jokes as the cinematics were playing, and I realized after we stopped playing, I'm like, you know what? I really wish I'd paid attention because I want to be invested in this game. So I'm not going to be making...
Oh, see, I can crack jokes and still be invested.
Well, the thing is, though, I actually want to pay attention. I mean, I can crack jokes. It's not like I'm going to be dead silent or anything. But I really want to pay attention to what's being said because we got to that point with that one character, and I went... Shit, I didn't really pay attention to what she was saying. No, I don't like this character.
That's the difference. And that's the difference between the two of us. Which I had been paying attention.
Yeah, I had been.
And my whole thing was, don't kill these people. Convince them.
No,
trick them,
that was an accident.
Yeah.
The woman with the Michael Jackson nose is the one that I was like, wait, I don't remember everything she said because she's coming off like a sociopath now.
She was a bit of a sociopath, and my whole thing was, I didn't want to abandon her in this game because I felt like that decision would come back to bite us in the ass. I wanted to help her, but in a low impact way.
Yeah.
Trick these people, set her free. but don't kill for her. And there's because I mean she did fight by our side at one point earlier, so it's almost kind of like you owe, like it's weird when you start entering like these
but you
real
don't know
world.
why she was fighting with us. Was it because we were the best weapon at hand and not because she intended us to live?
But it's the whole real world mindset. If I was in a situation like that where somebody helped me at one point by fighting alongside me, and then later I saw them in a shit situation, I might help them out to the best of my abilities and say basically, hey, you help me, I've helped you, we're fucking even. You know what I mean?
My approach is I sit there and go, okay, there's this bigger enemy, we have to fight him. Okay, great. My name's whatever. What's your name? Jeffrey Dahmer. Let's go. Dun, 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 dun. You're like, wait a minute. Who am I helping?
Wait, hold on. Jeffrey what?
Sorry. Who?
Yeah.
Well, what do you do when you're not fighting? Oh, I just chop people up and store them in my fridge. Oh, no. I've made a mistake.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. In Wasteland, there's a really great character in Wasteland that you can get on your team who's a slaver. Yeah. And I remember we were going to go get him, and you were like, wait. I think at one point someone said something. You're like, wait, hold on. Yeah. He's a what? Yeah. And you said to me right away, you're like, we're not taking this guy.
Right. On my solo playthrough, I immediately positioned all my people in a circle around him because I'm like, I know who this guy is.
You're like, fuck you, asshole.
Yeah, so I basically actually, it's funny because knowing that changed my whole approach to that fight. I had all my people sit way back, and we never found this. There's a way to set him free before you even enter the room.
Okay.
So I opened the door while I was in an air duct. He went out, mowed down half the enemies. Then we came in, swept the rest, and then before I talked to him, I arranged my people in a circle around him, and that was when he was explaining, and I'm like, yeah, you're not walking out of here alive, and we gunned him down like a fucking animal.
Yeah, and like I said, he was a bad guy. Like,
he was a horrible guy.
Yeah, he was and the thing is, this is the problem with Foresight, right? So, like, you and I haven't really read about Baldur's Gate 3, but there's a part of me that kind of wants to read about it because it's like I want to play my character like they have psychic abilities and can see aspects of the future, because there's characters that I just would rather not have them live. It's the whole, we're going to play through this game and find out we saved the slaver. Well, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then be like, fuck that, In a
way,
look, you accidentally saved Hitler.
But this is the thing.
Yeah.
This game is kind of a test for my sense of morality and judgment on things, where I'm kind of like, okay, if you act in a noble way, yeah, not every decision will come out, but will it reward the noble path generally?
I was trying to play it as noble but angry.
Well, you can be ruthlessly moral.
Like,
there is that type of character.
Listen, I need a bigger character because the dwarf is just too small, and with the strategies, those big but watching a dwarf kick in a Cthulhu's face was totally worth it.
That was really good. But that's what I mean about like Iron whatever Cordite or whatever his name was. That's moral. As soon as I knew what he was, I'm like, yeah, we're going to be separating his head and his body in the most violent fashion possible.
Well, there was no way.
Conversation.
Was there an option? Was there ever an option to let that character go?
There is. Oh yes, absolutely.
So you can even let him go. Yeah, but you know what it is?
Well, yes, you can basically say you can't join us, but you can leave. Or
what will you do if I let you go? And you're like, well, I'm going to go back to my lands and take up slaving and murdering again.
My destiny is to rule everything outside of Colorado, like half the country. So he's like, I let my ambition get in the way of my destiny. I'm going to get right back on that path. And the next time you see me, I will have an army of slaves. And it's like, and Angela Death wants you to take him because of his knowledge and his power. Yeah. So she's even acting in a weird. This is what I mean about that. This is the kind of thing
Angela. Yeah, but the Angela Death character in that game is more focused on the immediate goals rather than what's going to happen down the road. Yeah,
right. So I think she thinks that we can stop him later, and I'm like, no.
No, you're gonna turn this guy into an army.
Yeah. Just because you have cancer that gives you a Hulk arm doesn't mean you wait until you can punch your enemy in the face with your Hulk arm and then deal with the cancer later. You cut the arm off now, or whatever, the finger, before it becomes an arm, because then it might start kicking you or punching you in the balls, and you won't be able to control it.
I mean, your metaphor is fantastically weird. I'll give you that.
Yeah, well, I'm just saying, because she wanted him as a power weapon. Yeah. But you don't know what he's going to do. So
yeah, no, and that's the thing is that Wasteland, the morality of Wasteland was fascinating. Listen, I remember I was desperately trying to keep my members alive because at the end of that game, when you turn on what's his name, the Protector, what's that fucker's name?
Oh, what's
the Patriarch.
Patriarch. That's I was saying.
Yeah,
Patriarch.
you turn on the Patriarch for good reasons, by the way. Like he is kind of a bastard, but you
find out that he was sacrificing people for the illusion that he was leading nobly. He's not.
And one of your team members, who's one of the young girl who's been with your team since the beginning, she's like, "We can't do this." And I remember saying to you, I was like, "You need to let me talk to her." I was like, "You need to let me do this," and because there was a way, I knew there was a way to talk to her. There was a specific path that if you followed, that if you followed, you could convince her, and she would go with you. Because otherwise, you would have to kill her.
Well, I think it was you had to do all the optional stuff, so she kept being told by different people, "Hey, this guy is not what you were raised to think he was."
And that's the thing is, like, I did not want to get to a point in this game where I had to kill this girl. She was this is like killing Bestie in fucking Dead Island 2.
Well, I mean, her whole family is killed in the opening mission.
Yeah,
by her boyfriend who lets them in.
She takes up with you guys, and you guys go on these adventures. And it's like I didn't want to have to kill this character.
Oh, I was
and that's why, like, there's a lot of people that are like, oh, I don't want to read anything. I was like, no. I want a general concept, because if there's horrible shit down the road, I don't play games to get fucked in the head.
Well, I also think this game is going to make what you want impossible. I don't think there is any completely good ending to this.
No. I don't think ending, but you can find out if somebody's a huge bastard and be like, fuck that guy,
But I think in this game, you could just execute them. So it's okay.
Well, there's that annoying guy that apparently everybody likes. I found
Astarion,
whatever. God, so obnoxious.
But you see, that's where I don't want to know, because if he starts to organically become the best person we've
does
ever met,
does he become better? Yeah.
Right. So that's more
whereas,
fun to me.
Whereas we always knew that Iron Cordite was going to go fucking be a slaver and
not until he talked. We didn't know the way Angela set him up. Yeah. We thought he was going to be like a super powered prisoner. And then he starts talking about his destiny to enslave the entire West Coast.
And you're like, oh man, no, you're fucking crazy.
Nope,
no, you're not coming. Yeah.
So that was I like that because that came out of nowhere.
Yeah. And then and I don't are those videos still posted, all the Wasteland videos?
Oh yeah, they're all still.
Yeah, you can go find those, and you can find the instant that Joe basically says, "Oh, we're killing this guy. This guy's not leaving."
I'll bet you it's labeled or something. Hold on, because stuff like that I tend to use. Hold on, I'm opening.
You're like, oh, he's not getting out of here.
Wasteland 3 has its own playlist.
Yeah.
So let's see. Okay, that had to be. I'm gonna say episode. It's got to be past the halfway point. So this is Talk to a Strange Psychic and a Man with a Bird. Oh, the bird! The parrot that swore. I got that and kept it alive in my run.
It was so hard to keep him alive. That was the problem.
Yeah, it was. But I managed it in my solo one. Oh, that's the slaver that we met at the HQ. I remember her. Let's see. We head back to the slaver and give her an idea of what we think of her line of work. That was the one at the HQ. I remember that one. Let's see. We help on a man named Bulb. Oh, that's the barbecue. That's the barbecue. The cannibal jamboree. Let's see. We run into another park of Dorsey's who still don't seem to like us very much. That was true. They never did. They never did come around to us.
Oh yeah, it's way further on than that.
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, it's 16 parts. I'm only on part 11.
I think it's like 75% mark, somewhere around there.
You
don't get him till towards the end, like.
Oh yeah, that's the resort. I talked about the resort. Hold on, Vic Buchanan. Yeah, okay. So let's see.
And here's the thing: if you take Vic Buchanan, that says a lot about you. After seeing all the carnage that guy creates, if you take Vic Buchanan, then.
Well, you know what's funny? I didn't take him this time, but I did have him arrested instead of killing him.
Well, that's fine. Arrest him or kill him. That's fine.
Yeah.
But there's people who take him on their team.
Yeah.
And that's fucked up.
That is fucked up. Well, but those are probably the same people who would take Iron Cordite or whatever his name is.
Yeah.
Oh, here we go. In this installment, we meet a lot of colorful characters, at least one of which I hated almost immediately. That's got to be him. Yeah, I didn't name him, but that's got to be him. Yeah. So, yeah, they're all up there. There's 16 of them or so. So there you go.
So we're gonna try to do our best at not being sociopaths in Baldur's Gate.
No, we'll try very, very difficultly. Not very difficultly. We'll try very hard not to be.
Very carefully.
Yeah. I mean, well, we're not going to be intentional monsters.
So, no, never an intentional monster. But now and then you got to kill all the bad guys.
Because I mean, right in the beginning, there's a way to let that dying thing to help it. I think. So
Cthulhu, Cthulhu thing.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a way to actually help them.
No way. There's no way.
Well, not for us, but
they put a worm in our head. No, he's getting his face kicked in.
Oh, so I'm sure there's some way to convince yourself that they're acting in the
morality. No, morality-wise, if someone puts a worm in my eye that is eventually going to grow and blow my brain up, I'm kicking their head in.
Well, there's people who like to play things in different ways. So whatever you want to do.
I'm playing this game as a good Christian. I'll say
if you want to play as the bastard of the universe, go ahead.
Play it like Jesus.
It's better. I'll say this: it is better to take out all your darkest urges in a video game where no one gets hurt than it is to do it in real life. So if this is your outlet, knock yourself out.
But even in the real world, if somebody put a worm in my eye that was eventually going to kill me, I'd kick their head in.
I'm just saying, I do understand people who say, I don't want to play this game like I live my normal life. It's escapism, which means every once in a while when I get cut off in traffic and I want to kill the person in the car, I don't do that. I do it in a video game by being a fucking murderer. And I'm like,
yeah, the problem is these days they kill the person in the fucking car.
Well, yeah, that's why I'm saying in the video game is the better outlet. So play however you want. It's fine.
No, absolutely. But do know that it says something about you.
Yeah, well, if the reason you're doing it is because you're just curious about what the game will let you do, I can certainly
yeah. Well, hey, listen, there's a logic, and that is a logic. If I, listen, right. if you found out if you had when you first met your wife and she was playing a video game and you found out she was playing the video game as an utter psychopath, right? You'd sit there and go, interesting.
Well, no. What I would sit there and say is,
why are you playing it this way?
Why are you playing like that? Yes, exactly.
Yeah, and
my question
if they said,
that's interesting.
And if they said, when I like to play video games, I like to hurt people. You'd be like, okay, you're really sweet in the real world, and you obviously get out these negative energies, right? Yeah. Or if they said, you know what, I'm just curious to see how many people the game will let me kill. You'd be like, you know what, that makes sense too, right? But there's always red flags.
Or, this is practice. Okay.
I always play women in games. Why? Because I like naked ladies. That's really what it comes down to. There's some people who look at that and be like, is that because you want to be a woman? It's like, no. I just like to look at naked ones. Farscape, when Crichton gets turned into Aaron's son, one of the episodes where everyone switches bodies, he does that whole thing where he unzips his shirt. I mean, that's the first thing that I would do. Be like, I have boobs and they're attached to me. Sure. In that respect, I am a bit of just like a dude, So, but again, reasons, it's like, oh, you play every game as a woman. Why? Well, because I like to look at them.
Sure.
But I don't play first-person games as a woman because there's no point because I can't look at them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So it's the reasons. It's the reasons. So you and I always play these games, like just people. We honestly, let me rephrase that. We don't play them as just people. We play them by our own set of just morals.
Right.
You know what I mean? And what I loved about Wasteland as a game was the fact that sometimes we would have to discuss things because, it's like, okay, hold on. Why are we doing this? Or should we kill this guy? Right. And sometimes I play devil's advocate to get your reasoning. I didn't immediately feel like we needed to kill Iron Cordite, but then the further, as he was talking, I was like, yeah, okay. Yeah, there's no fixing this.
Yeah, I had less of a need for nuance in that position than you did.
I just wanted a little more information, because sometimes people talk a lot of shit.
When a guy has a shotgun for an arm, I take him seriously. That takes a level.
That's a red flag.
Yeah,
that's a red flag.
Yeah. He didn't get a defibrillator as his arm. He got his shotgun as his arm. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah. Good old defibrillator arm.
Right. Yeah, if that guy,
he's a good guy. That guy, listen, the shocker.
If the guy with the defibrillator arm tells me that he's doing something that seems questionable for the good of people, I might go, well, He did get something implanted that will revive people. Maybe he is trying. When a guy has a weapon of utter destruction that can only remove life from anything that's sitting in front of it, and he starts talking about his destiny, I'm pretty sure I know where that destiny is leading. So, in that way, I did have a bit of a sense.
And on that note, our destiny leads us to the end of the show.
It does. So go watch Mutant Mayhem. It's a lot of fun. And, that's it. Yeah, it's a great movie. It's a good time. Everybody should enjoy it. That's it. We'll talk to you again next week. Have a wonderful weekend. Visit OzoneNightmare.com to subscribe to new episodes, browse through our back catalog, or to find links to support the show. Follow @OzoneNightmare on Twitter for the latest episode postings and other show information. If 280 characters just isn't enough, you can always email us, theozonenightmare@gmail.com. The opening theme for the show is provided by Heartbeat Hero. The closing theme is provided by Ogre. Please visit and support these artists using the links in the show notes for each episode.